It isn't often that we pause to recall the emotional reality of God. We communicate of His omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence, however not often do we mirror on His heart, at the divine sensitivity that longs for communion together with His advent. While Jesus speaks, He often famous now not most effective reality however tenderness, exposing the deep craving of God for relationship. So, while we imagine Jesus announcing, God's religion is shaken because you always bypass Him, we are confronted with a profound and uncomfortable truth: the writer of the universe is heartbroken while we, the very ones He shaped in love, overlook Him in our daily lives. The word is not a theological contradiction. God is immutable, in no way wavering in His nature, but it is a poetic way to express divine grief, a holy sorrow born from being continually passed over through the ones whom He longs to draw close to. From the start, God created humanity for courting. The book of Genesis offers us not just a cosmic starting place story but a private one. God made man in His photo, breathed lifestyles into him, and walked with him in the lawn. This isn't always the portrait of a distant deity, but of a father desiring closeness. However, the gift of unfastened will, the very aspect that makes love true, additionally opened the door to rejection. Adam and Eve's decision to concentrate to every other voice over God's marked the start of humanity's lengthy history of skipping God. Nevertheless, God did not abandon His humans. Through covenants, prophets, miracles, and mercy, He pursued dating with the rebellious humans. But over and over, that pursuit became met with forgetfulness, distraction, or outright defiance. Jesus, God in flesh, stepped into this sample of neglect to interrupt the cycle. He taught, healed, and ultimately laid down His life to repair communion among God and Guy. His teachings have been no longer simply ethical commands however calls to intimacy. While Jesus said the best commandment was to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, and thoughts, He was reminding us that dating with God isn't a peripheral problem, it's far the principal purpose of our lives. Yet, even now, we frequently treat it as optional. We bypass God, no longer in malice, however in apathy. We fill our schedules with work, entertainment, relationships, and even correct deeds, however overlook the only who gave us breath. We undergo motions of faith without attractive our hearts. In doing so, we do no longer just leave out on blessings, we wound the very heart of God. The concept that God's religion is shaken can also seem strange. In spite of everything, God is ideal and unchanging. However here, religion isn't always about perception, it's far about belief in a relational sense. Like a determined watching a toddler always turn away, God's sorrow reflects the ache of broken fellowship. It isn't that He doubts Himself, it's far that He grieves our distance. Jesus, as the appropriate mirrored image of the Daddy's coronary heart, showed us how deeply God feels our absence. He wept over Jerusalem, lamenting that they would not come to Him. He advised parables about lost sheep, lost coins, and misplaced sons, not to disgrace, however to reveal how desperately God needs us back. He isn't always detached to our forget about. He isn't an impersonal force. He's a Father whose hands remain open, at the same time as we rush past Him every day. What does it imply to pass God? It approached deciding on something and the entirety above Him. It approached starting our day without prayer, making selections without looking for His information, enduring trouble without leaning into His presence, and celebrating success without imparting Him thank you. It method treating God as an afterthought in preference to the source of life. Skipping God is not usually intentional, it regularly comes from busyness, distraction, or religious fatigue. However the result is the identical: distance, dryness, and in the end disconnection. Our faith will become shallow, our peace erodes, and our cause blurs. And in all of this, God waits, no longer with anger, but with sorrow. Now not due to the fact He wishes us to continue to exist, but because He longs for our love. Jesus regularly rebuked folks who venerated God with their lips even as their hearts were ways from Him. He warned of non-secular performance that lacks intimacy. His cruelest phrases were for folks that knew Scripture however overlooked its author. Why? Because skipping God isn't just about sinning, it's miles approximately substituting faith for courting. We may also attend church, examine devotionals, or recite prayers, yet nonetheless bypass God if our hearts are disengaged. Real religion is not about responsibility, it is approximately choice. God desires us, and He longs for us to preference Him and go back. This is why Jesus frolicked in solitude with the Father. That is why He invited His disciples into friendship, not just servanthood. He got here to repair what we had skipped for centuries, a day-by-day, vibrant, honest stroll with God. When we constantly skip God, our spiritual lives start to fracture. We sense adrift, worrying, and uncertain. The peace that passes understanding feels out of attain. We strive to fill the void with noise, busyness, entertainment, success, but none of it satisfies. That ache is not simply mental, it's miles spiritual. We were made for God, and without Him, we get to the bottom of. Skipping God doesn't just disappoint Him, it devastates us. But still, He waits. Like the father within the parable of the prodigal son, God watches for our return, no longer with judgment, but with compassion. He runs to us, covers our disgrace, and restores our vicinity in His household. This is the coronary heart of the gospel, no longer that we discover God, but that He finds us, again and again.